Good morning. It's 7:24 a.m. on Saturday, October 24th, 2015. I'm Christiana Ellis and I just got up. This is 5 more minutes. Today I want to talk about a video game called The Beginner's Guide. And it's written, oh shoot, I didn't look up the guy's name. I can Google, no, never mind. Okay, it doesn't matter. The game's called The Beginner's Guide. And it's made by the same guy who made a game called The Stanley Parable. So before I talk more about The Beginner's Guide, let me tell you what The Stanley Parable was in case you're not familiar with it already. Both of these are games that you can buy on the PC through Steam or through other PC game services. So the Stanley Parable is a really interesting game where it's from a first-person perspective, but there's no shooting or anything. And the idea is that you start in an office that seems like it's been abandoned, and you're getting this narration that's saying, Stanley wondered where all his coworkers had gone. And you're exploring this office, and for a long while it's this linear path that you're taking through this office, and the narration is talking about how you're looking all around and you don't know where everybody went. But then you come to a room where there are 2 doors, 2 different ways you can go through. And as soon as you enter the room, the narration says, and then Stanley went through the door on the left. But now you, as the player, do you go through the door on the left? Do you go through the door on the right? The narrator said Stanley went through the door on the left, but you don't have to. Narration is not destiny. So you, the player, presented with this, you've just been told that the story is that you go through the door on the left. Do you do that, or do you go through the door on the right? And that simple type of question informs the whole rest of the game there, with the narrator ultimately responding to whatever it is that you do choose. So it said you went through on the left, but if you go through on the right, it says, what's going on there? And so I'm paraphrasing, of course. But the idea is that it's a game all about analyzing that interesting tension in a video game between what the real story is versus what you're doing as a player. And it's really interesting, and it's kind of heady stuff, and it's often very funny. So that's the guy who made that game has made The Beginner's Guide now, which is framed very differently, although it's still controlled in much the same way. It uses the source engine, which is what was used for Half-Life 2. So it looks fancy but simple. It's first-person perspective. But the presentation here is that he has this friend that he made at a game jam who makes all sorts of weird little simple games and then doesn't show them to anybody. And so in an attempt to try to encourage him to make more games, this game's creator has decided to release like a curated collection of all of these weird little games that his friend made. And you may see that I'm struggling to talk about it here, and let me just go ahead and say why. This game blew me away, and not altogether in the way that I expected. And I don't mean that like all these little mini games have clever mechanics or that they're funny or interesting in that way, but this game moved me emotionally like I could probably count on one hand the number of other games that have been this powerful for me. Now, what I will say is that it felt very personal to me, and so I can't guarantee that everybody's going to react to it emotionally the same way I did, but boy. So what I have to say about it is that it's about lots of things, like human empathy and what art is for and who art is for, and what can you tell about a person from the art they make, and what can games be for, and all of those things are explored in this game. This game that costs $10 and basically takes an hour and a half to play, and then it's done. So it's not a big commitment as a game to play. It's not a big price investment. And so what I'm saying is that if you are at all interested in this game after what I've just described, then I give it my highest possible recommendation and suggest that you play it. And I don't want to talk too much more about it because there are some things that could potentially be spoiled about it. And I think the game would be best experienced when you don't necessarily know what's coming next. But so, in a word, this game was amazing. And I just, like I said, you know, if you're just waiting around for the next Call of Duty and you just only use games as escapist power fantasies, that's fine, but this is probably not what you're looking for. If, on the other hand, what you'd like is games that explore that sort of intellectual and emotional headspace, this game is amazing. That's the beginner's guide. I played it on Steam. All right, so I will talk to you guys tomorrow for 5 more minutes.